Hello and welcome to this MicroTasker Shorts video, in which we're going to be looking at cloning a MicroTasker application in an Eclipse environment. The first thing that I've done is I've cloned the MicroTasker Git repository. This is the basic project, which includes a first application called MicroTasker v1.4. What we're going to do now is to make a copy of this directory. And now that the copy has completed, we're going to rename it. Let's call it My Gizmo. That's the name of the project which we're going to develop. As we can see here, the directory here is under version control, and because we've just made a copy of a new directory, this is not within the version management. Now the interesting point here is that what we can do is we can always update the main project without affecting this new directory. What we can, however, do is also make a new Git repository just for this target project. What I'd like to show you now is how to integrate this new project into an Eclipse environment. For this, I'm going to be using KDS. What I do is I take the reference KDS project settings, I'll make a copy of these and put them into the root. Now I can open KDS. I give it a new workspace. Once KDS is opened, I'm going to do an import of the project. Here we see that we have the import completed, and we see that we have all of these target project directories in it. The first thing that we have to ensure is that the original projects still build correctly. So what I do is I choose one of the original projects, for example this one here. This is going to fail, but I'm going to let it fail so that you can see why. Now this is a typical error. You'll see here that it's complaining about files which cannot be built in the new My Gizmo directory. So the first rule is, when we add a new project target, we have to exclude it from the existing project targets. To do this, we choose Resource Configuration, Exclude from Build. And here we can select them all, because we don't want the new content of this directory to be used in any of the previously existing project targets. If I now repeat the build, now we've successfully built the original project target. This means that our new target directory no longer disturbs the original configuration, and now we can set about building our new My Gizmo target instead. To do this, we're going to add a new build target. We go into the build configuration manage settings, and we choose first the project which we'd like it to be based on. We're going to choose this one here, so we select new. You see here that it's going to do a copy of the existing configuration, so they're going to give it a name and a description, and we say OK. If we now look in the drop down box here, we'll see that we have a new target which we could select to build. The first thing that I need to do for my new Gizmo target is to set up the directives which belong to it. So I'm going to do a similar thing to what we saw before with the resources. what we can see is the original project is excluded from these targets already, and now we want to exclude it also from my Gizmo target. The other targets, as we see, have already inherited the property of being excluded. And of course, the new directory must now be used. Here we allow it to be used in the My Gizmo target. Although I've selected this as our target, we see that it's still grayed out. This is a small glitch with KDS, which I can correct as follows. In the C++ general indexing settings, I can select Enable Project Specific Settings and then use the active build configuration rather than the fixed one. And now we see that our new target directory is no longer grayed out. So we're going to check that all of the property settings are correct for it. Now we move into the Include setting, where we find that we've inherited the path to the original target, which we simply modify with our new target name. We note in the process that the objects and the binaries are going to be set into this directory, which was automatically created when we started the build process. In fact, it didn't successfully build the first time, but the reason is fairly obvious. What it's trying to do is to build all of the files which it finds in its subdirectory, which is also including the simulation project. That is the project which contains the Visual Studio target. So all we need to do is to also exclude this subdirectory from this build. We say we don't want it to be built for any of our targets. And now we can try again. Now that the build is finally successful, there's one last thing I'd like to check. If I go into my new project directory and look in the KDS folder, I'm expecting to find that my binary targets have been placed here. However, this is not the case. Instead, what I'll find is that they've been replaced into the original target directory, as we verify here. These are the binaries that have just been built. So I'll go back into KDS. So what we again do is go into the project properties, and here we see that in the build steps, after the KDS compilation has completed, we execute a bat file which is located here. And again, I need to modify this so that it will execute the bat file which my new target directory requires. And also in the file system, I'm going to edit my bat file Here we see that the L file generated by the build is then converted to several output formats. So again, I have to specify the location of this. And I'm also going to take the opportunity to rename the output binary. So if I now rebuild, and check in my directory again, we indeed see that we have the binary file which could be loaded to my target board. The final thing to discuss is the fact that in our directory here we don't just have a KDS project, we have several other projects, including a makefile build and also the simulation. If there are any folders here which you're not interested in, for example, you're not going to be building with Microvision, you're not going to be using the simulator, S32, Design Studio, etc. You can delete these as you require. Many thanks for watching this video, and good luck with your own accelerated projects based on MicroTasker.